This picture is to show how what we call the Swedish model works. John Olle Persson, very famous Swedish social democrat, mayor of Stockholm from the 70s, had a tight dialogue with Wallenberg. Wallenberg is the Swedish tycoon family, owning shares and sitting in boards of so many Swedish companies: Volvo, Scania, Electrolux, Ericsson, Atlas Copco, every one of them. Ericsson is growing very fast. We need more land in Stockholm to be able to stay in Stockholm. This was at the time of the declining Cold War after the Second World War. So the Swedish defense decided to leave this Järvafältet, and the city of Stockholm bought this land from the Swedish defense and started to develop this as a new housing and industry area. So this is from the mid-70s, 76, 77. Ericsson Radio Systems, the first industry here in Kista. John Olle Persson, the mayor of the city of Stockholm in 1980s, understood that to be able to develop Kista to a next phase, we needed some collaboration, because Ericsson had their radio department here in Kista. IBM was the second company here, and there were a lot of other companies who had, from the mid-70s to the beginning and mid-80s, decided to kind of be close to Ericsson. So John Olle Persson and the city of Stockholm took an initiative for a dialogue with Ericsson, and at that time also ABB, the power company, the Royal Institute of Technology of Stockholm, and the Stockholm University. That is a triple helix. Government, or let's say city government, in collaboration with the industry and education, makes a triple helix. And these guys, they had read Michael Porter, the Harvard professor, with his theories around clusters and triple helix. The idea behind triple helix is that if we can have governmental institutions to collaborate with the industries and the research, we should be able to speed up the innovation processes. And if we also can gather all of these entities on the same spot, it should be easier for these parties to collaborate. So that's the idea behind Kista. Gather people of same interest, different knowledges, and different needs in one place, and start a dialogue. So they created this Electrum Foundation. Electrum Foundation started to work on ideas how to develop this cluster.
What year was that? What year?
85. Yes, when the discussion started. And here is once again John Olle Persson, the mayor of Stockholm. He's behind an Ericsson radar, and he's holding a semiconductor, a chip, in his hand. And he says, Electrum, finally an electronic center for education, research, and industry in Kista. This organization started to create a co-fund to be able to, in 1988, inaugurate the Electrum Laboratory. What's a kind of special is that in this building, 2 universities are collaborating. Initial idea was to create an IT university. There were even logos saying the IT university. But these two universities had so strong profiles, so they decided to collaborate in the same premises, in the same buildings, but with different organizations. They are collaborating a lot. Let's say that the Royal Institute of Technology, KTH, they are more hardcore technology, and the Stockholm University comes in from the human perspective. That's a small difference, but they collaborate a lot. In the 90s, Kista had grown a lot, and they had once again read theories on how to create and build clusters. In the late 90s, they understood that we didn't have the typical way of organizing Kista as the typical science park. As I told you in the beginning, we are a very, very open cluster, and there are no membership fees. Anyone can be here. We have no saying. No say. The Electron Foundation has no saying, because they who really decides on what happens here, that's in a dialogue between the city and the real estate developers. So my organization, Kista Science City and the Electron Foundation, we are gathering all of these powers in tight dialogues so that everyone can understand what are the needs for the society. This is the board of the Electron Foundation, and this is to show how we make the triple helix. The mayor of Stockholm, the vice mayor of Stockholm responsible for traffic, enterprise and labor market, and Olle Zetterberg, the CEO of Stockholm Business Region. These are the three persons from the city. And observe that we have no person from the national government. This is a city interest. Of course, it's a governmental interest too. I will explain why. This guy, he comes from Swedish ICT Research. Swedish ICT Research is a group function for all of the Swedish governmentally owned research institute in the ICT sector, called Acreo 6 Interactive Institute and so on, with headquarters in Kista. The principal for KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology, and his dean of the School of ICT, situated here in Kista. This Stockholm University Computer and System Sciences, with office here in Kista. There's an association called Kista Real Estate Developers Association. I told you that these real estate developers, they are in constant conflict on the next piece of land. And they have created an organization because they fully understand that if they collaborate a lot on common interests like infrastructure and use us as their force to come easier to decisions from the city. So one of the representatives from the board of the Kista real estate developers are always in our board of Electron. And so has some of the companies. So they have created the Kista Enterprises Association. And to keep a balance between the very, very huge Ericsson global headquarters and other companies, the tradition is that the chairman of the Enterprises Association is IBM, because they are the second largest company. So in the board of directors, so the real estate, the enterprises, the education and research, the city, and always one elected for 4 years representative of small and medium enterprises. Mainly a person that started his studies here in Kista and started to start his first company. And the tradition gives that the city of Stockholm mayor gives the share to one person in Ericsson to show that this place is for industrial growth, ICT. The board has two subsidiary companies, Kista Science City AB, which means this company, AB, means limited company, incorporated company. And this is a non-profit company owned by the Electron Foundation. But the questions and issues discussed in Electron Foundation is, of course, how to develop this place. But the decisions are made in the City Hall. To help the board of directors in the Electron Foundation, we have 6 advisory boards, strategic councils or advisory boards or think tanks. In each and one of these, there are about 10 people. So, for example, in infrastructure, in the advisory board for infrastructure, you will find people from all of the surrounding municipalities, because it's a common interest to constantly redevelop and develop the infrastructure in all these municipalities. Therefore, in the board for infrastructure, no decisions are made. Once again, no decision is made, but very, very fruitful discussions with these guys and these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 10, about 50 to 70 people for free of charge. There are no payments for being in the boards, because we expect that each and every one of these people do this by their own will, because they are interested in the development of Kista. So once again, this very, very loose-fitted organization. So, and as chairman in each and every one of these organizations, so for example, this guy, he is in chair of the infrastructure because he's a real estate developer. He needs infrastructure. Gives him opportunity to meet with all these infrastructure owners and landowners. And so these two companies, two non-profit companies, Kista Science City AB, responsible for marketing and creating relationships, building relations between industry, government, and research. So wherever I meet with people, I think, okay, how can I connect this guy with that guy and that guy? Arranging very, very simple coffee meetings here in the coffee shop, and then I can leave. I call myself a relationist. I create relations and then leave. That's also part of the very, very lightweight, soft management we have here. Very different from the cluster, the typical cluster. We leave when things start. So look upon Kista Science City and Electron Foundation as catalyst. The little drop making everything blue or red or green.
Did you visit Korea?
Oh, 3 times, yes.
3 times. What's the impression of the Techno Park?
You are a very, very young republic who has made wonders in 60, 70 years. I mean, when traveling to Busan, people in Busan remember the Swedish people working in the Red Cross. So, and with Ericsson, LG collaborating, Samsung, Ericsson collaborating. The difference between your country and my country is the Swedish model. That we are so, the Swedish model is so very important for us that the government seems to listen more to the companies than the companies need to listen to the government. That might be the difference. And we are used to not having control. And we are very used to work without control. So if anyone don't want to listen to me, you're free. I cannot decide what you want to do. And that might be the difference between the typical techno cluster in Korea and Kista Science City. And we have the same in Sweden. Lindholmen Science Park, Mjärdevi Science Park, Ideon in Lund. There are several science parks similar to the Korean technoparks. If you are a Korean science park, technopark, wanting to collaborate with Swedish technoparks, don't come to Kista. But Lindholmen Science Park in Gothenburg, Mjärdevi in Linköping, Ideon in Lund, they are perfect to collaborate with Korean technopark. But companies in Korean technoparks could find relations and develop relations with companies here.
The initial promoter of this scheme was City of Stockholm
Yes.
and Ericsson,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Ericsson is the biggest company
Yes.
in this country. And was there no antagonism against the big company get some benefits from the government, from the political parties or many peoples around
no.
here?
From left wing to right wing, it's the same view on what industry means. And that is a very good question. A couple of weeks ago, there was a new book issued about the Wallenberg tycoon family and their importance in how to develop the Swedish welfare system. The Wallenberg family and the Swedish government, if it's a right-wing, moderate, conservative party or a social democrat party in charge of the government, they have the same dialogue with the Swedish capitalists. And what the Swedish capitalists offer is decreasing some of the profit to pay quite some high taxes to the Swedish government and collaborate with the Swedish blue-collar unions. So it's the Swedish blue-collar unions, the Social Democrats, the Conservative Party, and the Swedish industry having exactly the same view on how to build Sweden. So welfare to everyone has been the main idea from both the capitalists and the left wing.
If Korean venture capital
Yes.
come in here
Yes.
and invest in some startup company,
Yes,
they might get some specific knowledges, technical
Oh, yes.
knowledges from that company,
yes,
and you don't have any problem with that.
no. Because the tradition is also that so many Swedish companies are leaving Sweden to other markets because we have not enough venture capital. So we are so used that companies leave for mainly US or the rest of Europe. But there's a new upcoming, of course, China. But there's a new upcoming country called South Korea, the Republic of South Korea. And there's a new thing about the Republic of South Korea, and that is that you are hip, you are cool, Gangnam style. Yes. You know, you should know that Swedish youngsters, students, are looking into Korea to go to Korea for scholarships, to study in universities, or to start a startup company. So we have maybe the perfect time to create a stronger relationship between, no, I'm not so humble again, between Korea and Kista. Tomorrow there will be only two kinds of companies, the fast and the dead. So we are on the global competitive market.
Thank you very much.